Um, Many of you probably experienced the challenge of getting the kids out in the morning. It's very difficult, can be very difficult, and sometimes you run out of eggs. I have here 3 eggs, which is not really enough for our family of 4, but I can make crepes, simple, basic crepes, originated in Brittany, from a few simple ingredients and make a upscale breakfast. And so today we're going to make basic crepes. It'll take about 10-15 minutes, and it'll have all the ingredients for the basics, and we'll talk about some of the alternatives that you can make. So, firstly, what you need is a measuring cup, a whisk bowl, a fork is useful, a good spatula, and a frying pan. Now, with frying pans, I've got a non-stick frying pan and a cast iron frying pan, and I find that sometimes the non-stick is too slippery for the crepe juice to spread out. So, we're going to use both today and see how those work. See how those work. They're getting warmed up ahead of time. The ingredients for crepes are flour, basic all-purpose flour, and eggs, as I mentioned before, and water. That's all you need, and a little butter. That's all you need. But we're going to make ours with a little bit of milk as well, and with a little bit of vanilla. These are the secret ingredients. Okay, so basically we start off with the flour, and you can make, with 2 eggs, you make 1 scoop of flour, 1 cup of flour. But I've got 3 eggs and hungry kids and a 13-year-old, so I'm going to make 1.5 cups of flour. Make a batch with 1.5 cups of flour. My 3 eggs. Now I'm going to make a little hole in the middle, a little indentation. Break our 3 eggs into it. Not like that. That was supposed to look more expert than that. And a little bit of shell out of there. And then I find that if you start off mixing in the eggs and with the fork, then you can kind of get that good start going before you bother with trying with the whisk. And then I'm going to use half and half milk and water. But as I said, if you have a lactose intolerant eater in your household, you can do this with just water. You could probably use a little cream if you wanted to make it more creamy, to substitute for cream. But around here we go with half and half water and milk. If you want to pause it. And we're back. So the next thing to do, I've mixed up this ingredient. These are just the eggs and the flour mixed together. You can see it's still a little lumpy. That's okay. Those kind of add some texture to your final crepes. Once you stir it enough, you can mix in a little bit of vanilla. This is for sweet crepes rather than savory crepes, which are what's usually popular at my house. And by a little bit, I'm talking about a teaspoon or half a teaspoon, not very much at all, vanilla extract. And then calls for 2 tablespoons of butter. I like to go with just 1 tablespoon of butter. That's usually sufficient. And then mix that all in. And this mixture has had about 10 minutes to set. You kind of want to give it a couple of minutes, but you can pretty much start cooking right away. And we have our 2 pans. I've preheated these pans. I'm going to put in about a ladle full of crepe mixture. Turn the light on here. And then I'm going to work it around the pan to thin it out. And we'll do the same with the non-stick pan, and you might see what I was talking about earlier, where it seems to be sticking. Maybe our pan is now lost enough of its non-stickness. Now I've greased the pans with a little bit of butter, and that's usually sufficient. Now, once the pan is properly warm, the crepes take about a minute on each side, and so it really doesn't take very long. You don't want to manipulate it too much, but when you get to the point where you can actually lift it. Now I'm curious, I put in a little bit of butter on here. I'm wondering how seasoned this is. Oh, it looks pretty good already. Now, maybe jumping the gun, but sometimes I like it if it's a little browned on the backside. But basically, if it's solid enough that you can turn it over, then it's ready to be turned over. And then usually, since it's a bit of a production process, I'll turn the oven on just to keep things warm. And as you can see, that one's also solid enough to be able to turn it over. I have one hungry eater right here who's waiting eagerly for his crepe to be ready.
I'm watching.
And watching. Alright, that's a perfectly cooked crepe. See, there's a little bit of browning on it. That is ready to be eaten with a little bit of lemon and sugar.